All right. Call to order this meeting of Housing, Health, and Public Safety. On the agenda tonight, we'll go over the chronic nuisance ordinance. I want to try tonight, if at all possible, to go through this one section at a time to make sure that, one, our notes have been looked into as far as personal notes that we've made on these, and that we are satisfied as we go through each section instead of jumping around like we have been.
Yeah, and we've already made some substantial changes. We've kind of heard a lot of input from other committee members, some landlords, some that are in attendance now, and we've been working with Mr. Tassel, and he's got some notes for us as well too, so we can go over those as well.
I guess if we want, we can start with the purpose. We really haven't found anything to change with the purpose of this as far as what we're looking to do with this. Basically, a lot of properties within the city of Norwood present a health, safety, and welfare concern for the city, so that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I did add in, under definitions, under the chronic nuisance property, I added in a commercial property 1,000 to 5,000 square feet. Now, I checked the auditor site. I couldn't find anything as far as auditor. I couldn't find a table that the auditor had that spelled out commercial square footage or anything. So what I did was I went to the smallest business that I knew in Norwood and took that square footage to the largest that I knew of in Norwood and took that square footage. So the smallest one that I could find was 1,200 square feet, which is where I came up with the 1,000 square feet, because maybe in the future there might be something a little bit smaller than that 1,000 or that 1,200 square foot building, but as of right now there's not. And then 5,000 square feet is essentially up to a UDF. I think the largest UDF is what, 35 or 3,800.
Yes, I mean this is really going to cover like small stores, bars, restaurants, stuff like that.
Even Happy Hollow is somewhere close to that 4,000 square foot with their top area.
Yeah.
With their second floor. So.
Yeah, I've got zero issues with the 1,000 to 5,000 square foot, and that's having 6 or more nuisance activities or 2 felony drug offenses in any 6-month period. And then the commercial properties, the bigger ones, having 12 nuisance activities in any 6 months or 2 felony drugs offenses in any 6-month period. I got no issues with those. I think those are pretty good numbers for what you had to work with. So
I think those are reasonable.
And again, just to note that anytime you start getting these and you start trying to abate them, it's all stalled.
Correct.
It doesn't, don't
Correct.
keep piling on you. It's all stalled. As we see that you're trying to abate this, that's what we want.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so it gets stalled, and all you got to do is just show proof that you're trying to abate the situation or the issue, and that's cool.
And that's all spelled out later on in the ordinance. So nothing was really changed through the nuisance activities information. I did add a C, so I moved the C to D and D to E. So I added a C to try and define a call for service.
is that one of Mr. Tassel's suggestions that he had?
Yes.
That he had. So yeah.
So basically, a call for service is a call to a residence or building that could involve a citation, arrest, or warning. The chronic nuisance task force will review and determine if the call for service falls within this ordinance. And I put that in basically so that they can go, okay, is this a neighbor constantly calling to try and get the neighbor in trouble because they don't like them?
Right.
Or is this actually a call for service?
Is there?
So that's why I put that second portion in there for them to review it to make sure that,
just to add merit to it.
Correct. because they're going to be the ones utilizing this ordinance. And again, I took out the term nuisance activities right there at the bottom below E because I keep forgetting to delete it from my computer. So all I did was scratch it and such.
Excuse me, can I ask a quick question? I might not have that version. What page is that one you're talking about today? Is that the version you emailed?
So this was added
This was added
just
at
after.
5. This was added at 5:30 this afternoon after Mr. Tassel sent me an email.
That is wonderful. Maybe I could grab one of those on my table, or would that be wrong?
I guess you can have Mr. Bonzels for right now.
I mean, if he shows up, I'll give it back.
That one, I guess is that the,
No, not the one with the writing on it.
no, that's the one with the writing. You want the one without the writing.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the second page, number C.
Thank you.
Just defines what call for service is.
Thank you. I think that's a move in the right direction. It's much appreciated.
Under, as you can see, under, well, it's under F.
Person
I'll have
associated
these
with.
changed. Person associated with, I added at the bottom. Any person that has been served with a notice of trespass will no longer be considered a person associated with as defined above. So I added that. However, the one thing that I need to figure out is if somebody has been trespassed by the police department or by the landlord saying you cannot return, and cousin Billy Joe continues to come over even after being trespassed, and still is causing a problem, how do we handle this
How
as
do
far
we
as,
know? Yeah.
I mean, we could have Billy Joe's cousin go, well, I don't know, he just stopped by. I can't control when he comes and goes. That was my problem with putting that in there. I put it in there because it was a suggestion that was made.
Yeah, and this is another one of Mr. Tassel's concerns and suggestions that he made. So far on the list, we got 3 of those checked off, and I think it's pretty good working together.
But again, I'm trying to figure out how, because again, I could have my cousin trespass from my house, but I go, hey, why don't you come over? Who cares about the trespass? And all of a sudden he comes over, causes more problems. I could go, well, he came over on his own merit. I didn't accept that.
Well, in my mind, that would be on the property owner or the landlord or whoever to enforce that notice of trespass. And if they violate it, then that's cause for, breaking the lease, eviction, stuff like that.
Well, we've heard from several landlords that have said how hard it is to evict. I know, I'm splitting hairs here.
It's tough.
Would you like me to make a comment here? I have some experience.
We'll take comments after we get through all this.
Thank you.
Yeah, just mark that on there and come back to it.
On page 4, under 7B, I marked it as 10 days to correspond with another one under the order to abate. So under this, it says a statement that provided the owner or person in charge submits a written plan to abate or prevent further nuisance, the city of Norwood will deem the property a chronic nuisance property in order to allow 10 days for the owner or person in charge to carry out such abatement plan. So essentially what will happen is if you're deemed a chronic nuisance, and typically people will get that letter within half that time that you're getting close to it. Once you're deemed a chronic nuisance, you'll have 10 days to abate the problem. Do we want to go higher, or do we want to stick at 10?
So that's pretty much saying you get your letter that, hey, you might become chronic nuisance. You're about halfway through the allowable infractions. And with this saying, we're giving them 10 days to respond back to the city with a plan.
Correct.
I think that's fair enough.
This one's saying to carry it out, so Maybe we switch that to 30. Because it's on the next page, it states that they will have 10 days to notify the safety service director of a plan.
Okay, so 10 days to notify of the plan, 30 days to carry it out.
Carry it out. So that'll be technically that would be 40 days then at that point
Yeah.
to take care of the problem.
So under 7B, we're going to put that 30.
30 days, yes. The only thing I changed really in the version that was emailed out so that everybody had a copy was, let's see. So under the order to abate, this was not the portion that I changed to halfway through. I don't think. No. I changed the halfway through on the letters. So under the procedure portion, where it says a statement that if a second or subsequent nuisance activity or felony drug offense occurs on a single family property, that's when the letter will go out saying, hey, you're getting close to your chronic nuisance. That's the halfway point. Okay.
And that's under the order to abate.
Yes.
Chronic nuisance
Or
section.
that's under procedure. Order
Yeah.
to abate is at the point of when they become. So like a single family for
Yeah.
the fourth time.
And you added in D&E for the commercial size properties.
Correct.
Nice.
So essentially the procedure is once the task force has determined that they've reached that halfway point of their order to abate or becoming a nuisance property, the letter will be sent out saying, hey, you've been deemed to have 2 chronic nuisance if you're a single family within a 6-month period or within a 2-month period, whatever it may be. Please resolve the issue. That basically it's a first warning letter.
Yeah.
Now, when you go down to the order to abate chronic nuisance, that's when you pick up your 4th, your 8th, your 10th, and so on with the other properties. That letter will still be a warning letter as well, but this is a warning letter of, hey, you've been deemed a chronic nuisance. Your next one's going to entail a fine.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another one of Tassel's suggestions that we decided to go with, so showing further and further that we are working together there.
Yep. So then if we go on to page, let's see, 5. Under F, should have a big space in between there. The owner or person in charge is required to submit a written plan within 10 days of the property being deemed a nuisance to the safety service director to abate or prevent further nuisance activities. So that's where your letter or where your plan comes into effect. And then
And they would essentially almost have more time to do that because we're sending the letters out sooner rather than later.
correct. I mean, we're
So they're
They've
realistically,
already gotten 2 letters of warning.
right.
yeah. So they're going to have 10 days to get something back to us, and that way, if it takes another couple months for them to get the rest of their things, or maybe they send that abatement letter in, they send a letter to the residents, or they decide, hey, bud, you can't come over my house anymore, you're getting me in trouble.
And I
Then
mean,
they don't have those final notifications to become a nuisance property.
I think that's about all I've changed since the last meeting.
Yeah, I know we talked about like the appeals section,
We
having
discussed
it
the
in
appeals
here or having it
section,
out and having
but
that be the.
I wasn't certain how we were going to type that up because I know we were trying to do it staggered or trying to create like a 3-month gap or something in there.
Yeah, but what I meant was, are we leaving that in this ordinance? Or are we going to take that out and have that be just like the bylaws and creation of the board and itself? That they would have to find that information elsewhere, or?
What, you mean the appeals process?
Yeah.
No, we need to spell it out here.
Okay. I'm with it. I just wanted to make sure, because I know we talked
Seems
about
like
it.
everything else needs to be spelled out, so.
And the info in this appeals process, we could essentially use to create that board, and that would kind of be like the policies, procedures, maybe with a little bit more added in.
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
No, I was just saying, like, the appeals process spelled out here, we can use to, when we create a board for like their policies, procedures, essentially, maybe with a little bit more added in. if
Yeah,
need be.
there can be additional things added to the.
So, Mr. Tassel did add in a note here under the appeals section about the last sentence being confusing of any such appeal should not stay any actions by the city of Norwood unless an owner or landlord can provide sufficient evidence that they have abated specific nuisance activity within the 6-month period in which the nuisance activity member shall then be reduced to reflect the number reflect the abatement of the specific nuisance activities of the property. So he kind of said it was confusing. Pretty much what that means is if you go to the appeals process and you have tried to abate the problem, or you did abate the problem, or you evicted the person, or sent them a letter and, hey, it's handled, then that'll stay any sort of further penalty until that's complete. If you didn't do that, then that's not going to stay those actions by the city within this ordinance. So if you didn't try to do the abatement process and now you want to try to appeal the decision that we're saying you're a nuisance property, you're going to keep getting fined and stuff if more problems happen. If you do provide that letter within 10 days, you do enact the abatement plan, and you can show that proof, hey, I gave you this, we're trying this, we're in the process of being evicted. That process, that fine structure, all that stops. We're not going to hammer you for that. We're going to kind of let the appeals process play out. So I'm not sure why that was pretty confusing. I think that was really a nice added benefit to, especially landlords, where they can't, they're dealing with other people rather than homeowners that are dealing with problems within their own household. So I don't think that's something we should change. I think it's pretty clear. I think that's a keeper for me because that's a huge protection for landlords and people in this process. So that way, if they did everything right, they did submit that letter, they are abating the problem, and they're in the appeals process and they get another fine for that problem, they can say, hey, no, it says it stops till this is done right here. And it reflects that back. So, Mike over here has a problem guy and he ends up evicting him. He's got 5 of those violations, then that number of violations goes away. And that could really impact his situation in this. So I think maybe that's something we should reach out to Tassel and I can try to explain, or you can try to explain what that sentence means. But to me, that's a very important sentence in this ordinance for the protection of property owners and landlords alike. So.
Correct, and that's something Mr. Gabbard had brought up at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
I know another one that he had put in here that I had thought about and didn't think about it long. It was probably about 5 minutes, to be honest. Was that he wanted a 24, stating that violations must be separated by a 24-hour period in time frame, right? So here's my argument with that. Let's say you have a 4-unit building and you've got somebody in apartment 1 who has a party and somebody starts a fight and a big brawl starts going out and moves out in the street, and then you have that. Let's say that's at 9 p.m. And then we get to 1 a.m. and we've got somebody shooting a gun from apartment number 2. Well, if we're putting a stay on a 24-hour period separating these incidents, which one are we going with? Apartment 1 or apartment 2? And we're combining both of those into one incident, one call for service. So we've got a fight and gunfire from two separate apartments. You know, we put in separation of 24 hours. Now that's only considered one call for service, but our police department or fire department may have had to go up there twice.
Yeah.
Or let's say we have a drug overdose in 1 and a drug overdose in 3. Now we've got both of those within the same 24-hour period, but now we're only counting it as one. So that's my argument for a separation of 24 hours, not putting that in there.
Yeah. Which number is that on here?
It's not on here. It's something Mr. Tassel sent in his email.
He wanted it. I know we talked about it before, and I could be on either side of that because, you know, yeah, what if there's just a bad day and stuff happens and then this happens? You know, I get it. Things happen. But at the same time, like you're talking about, like the bigger units where this apartment is not even involved with this apartment, it's just different things, different people, whole different incidents.
Mm-hmm.
That I'll leave to you. I could go either way with that.
I mean, really... I've sat there and I've watched 5 different incidents within a big apartment building occur within a 24-hour period. And I get where some landlords kind of get nervous about that and go, well, now I'm at 5 already in just 24 hours. And I get that. But at that point, you as a landlord or somebody should be figuring out, well, there's a big problem here and I need to figure out how to take care of this problem. Right? Yeah. I wouldn't want them in there.
Well, one of the things I keep trying to bring up too is everybody thinks this is just a landlord thing. It's just,
no,
that's not. I mean, it's
correct.
Could be the single family.
It's a single family.
That's what.
Yeah.
I mean, my initial when we first started this at the beginning of the year, my initial problem was single families. I wasn't even thinking about big apartment complexes or multi-unit. I was thinking about that. So if we've got to go back 2 and 3 times to a single family, there's a problem there.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't care what the incidents are.
I agree. This has been turned almost into a landlord thing, which, it's just a section of this.
Yeah.
And we got more protections in here, I feel like, that covers landlords than regular property owners. Because there's what kind of abatement program? Are you going to evict yourself from your own house? I can't go anywhere. I haven't got money like that to just go somewhere else. But, yeah, I agree. And that's why I could stay with it being multiple calls in the same day to the same place. I mean, it's a drain on resources. It's a drain on services. So if you choose to keep it in there or even not put the other verbiage in there, I'm fine with that.
Well, and it also comes out if you look at bars. If we've got shots fired from a bar at 9 p.m. and then all of a sudden we've got a fight because of those shots fired later that night because somebody's trying to get, trying to take care of business at midnight, those are 2 separate incidents right there. Yeah, they may be over the same one earlier, but they're 2 separate incidents.
I think, some of that's going to be some judgment of the task force.
Correct.
As how they look at that.
Correct. And that's where those calls for service comes in at.
Yeah, so under burden proof here, Mr. Tassel has some suggestions, and I'm okay with one of them. A couple of them I just don't really understand too much, like what his thoughts were. So number A, he had, add include that information in a clear manner and all notifications to the property owner manager. Is this, I feel like he's wanting the police department to get a hold of the apartment managers to say, hey, we got some stuff going on your property. That's on the property managers to be tracking that information, being able to go to the police department. Like what we need to do is have that information readily available and accessible if they do decide to go up there. Hey, can I get lists of anything going on this past week or this past month?
It would be nice if, because it's almost like telling your dad, you know you're not supposed to be doing something, you're not supposed to be getting in trouble.
Yeah.
You get caught. Now, if they just deal with you, but if they say, we will be making a call to your dad, that throws it to a different level. Whereas if they say to the people, and hopefully the landlord has communicated that to them, that I'm not to be getting phone calls from the police, not because unfortunately a lot of times that's how landlords find out is they have somebody else that lives close, and they're like, hey, I noticed that. It calls them and says, hey, I noticed that the cops were at your building.
Yeah.
Otherwise they don't find out. But if a cop was able to call and say, just so you know, there was a call made to your building today, then that landlord jumps on it, because that, as a tenant, I would think, man, I don't want my landlord to know. I'd rather deal with this.
And on the same hand,
how are they going to do that?
On the opposite hand, they might know some of the landlords around, but they might not know all of them. So to keep that as a requirement, and who in the police department is going to be doing that, calling landlords all day, I just don't think that we have that capacity to do that. But what we need to do is ensure that this information is easily available, that they can go, hey, from this date to this date, can I get any incidences or calls from this address, like reports, and clearly listed out who's who and what was what.
Now, I can say that I did it as an officer, but again, I wasn't working at a department that was getting 1,000 calls a day.
Right.
I had a problem with a landlord, or I had a problem with a tenant, I'd be on the phone immediately, because we had this database of all the building's tenants.
Yeah, and the contact.
Or not tenants, landlords with who was in the building, the tenants in the building. So we were able to call that landlord based off this database and say, hey, we had a problem up here. You need to take care of it.
Yeah. It's probably something we can work towards, but I just don't see us having that capacity right now.
Right now, no.
But even if we just say, hey, we want to make that information available, if we can't make it available easily, then that's something we can and should be able to do, especially to keep this enforceable. And the only other one that he had here was B1, where it's he or she was not an owner at the time of the nuisance activity. That is the basis of the notice. He had to then add, nor were they a principal in the ownership entity during the time of the violation, which pretty much to me reads they didn't own it, and they weren't like a part of the previous company that owned it.
Right.
So I think that one's a good add-in.
Yeah.
I like
you
that.
And I own it together.
Yeah.
It's not in either of our
To
names.
where they didn't shift it over here in the shadows. Oh, you take it over now so we can be free and clear. Yeah, I like that one a lot. So that's under burden of proof on Mr. Tassel's notes, B1. Yeah, and then another one he has, he or she signed up for, and this would be number 4 on burden of proof. He or she signed up for police notifications as actively working with the police department, may include serving trespass notices and following crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED principles, which I think we're still waiting on that program information from Mr. Tassel that he wanted to be included. But
again, this comes back to he's wanting the police to call the landlords in this section.
Is that they could sign up for that thing where they get alerts if there's a major crime going on, but not...
No, we don't have anything that alerts. This is what he's wanting the police department to call landlords and say, hey, we've got a problem here, let's discuss it, how do we fix this?
Yeah, so I think letter A, them calling landlords, and then this number 4 would be kind of a future thing that we can maybe work towards. Which would be nice.
And I get where he discusses the crime prevention through environmental design, okay? So, to me, some of that is is like a cop-out. I could throw a no trespassing sign up on my building. Oh, now I'm not liable for anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not liable for it. There's a sign right there. I'm not liable for it. That, I can see a lot of owners going to that mode, because I've seen a lot of owners going, hey, I had a no trespassing sign up there, but that came on my property anyway. That's not on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that the design behind that program, and if we can get some more information on it, that's fine.
Yeah, we're still waiting on literature. He's looking for, I guess, a sample letter that we can put out, or kind of pull from.
I don't mind.
With the program.
I don't mind getting a letter together. The problem is that he suggested programs that I don't have any idea. When I saw his email the other day, I think he had sent an email saying that we had to sign up and partner with Cincinnati, and that we had to discuss with Cincinnati how to start these programs. To me, that's not. No.
Yeah.
I'm putting this together.
What it was delivered like in our last email to me sounded like, hey, I can give you information for a program that they would be glad to help them learn.
Okay.
Which would be great, but
the way I read it was we had to sign up for it.
Yeah,
we had to
read
partner
differently.
with Cincinnati.
You were saying that it sounded delivered, which we got to look into that, I guess, and he's got to give us that information. So we can't really do anything without that information for that ask that he has. But other than that, I don't know if you changed anything else, but he had some suggestions about impact fees, which
he's just not happy with.
Yeah, and I mean his ask was is that the actual costs become much more problematic to calculate than just charging a fee, or it can result in the claims of punishment by additional unnecessary response to calls for service, as it generates revenue from police services. Never good policy. That just kind of sounds to me like he wants to do away with the fees, fine structure, which I'm not.
No, what he wants to do away with is the
cost for man hours.
The call. Remember when we get to a certain number, the police chief can start charging.
Yeah, we're not taking
the
that
man
out.
hours for it.
Yeah.
So essentially, what he's trying to say is that we're just trying to generate revenue. No, we're trying to recoup the costs of going out there 12, 15, 20 times.
And again, that is a severe
in a
case.
6-month period.
That's a severe case where if you're at that point, you're getting multiple notices. You are grossly in neglect of this ordinance.
Yeah.
It's not, well, I didn't know, and you're going to plead ignorance. It's you grossly neglected, letter after letter after letter. I mean, we're adults. I mean, at that point, I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry.
Well, and the other one that he said was 2 years with no violations may be excessive, especially considering the number of potential violations. Good data will support the proper time frame. Well,
I know we talked about this one. I think we
discussed
talked about a
it,
year.
but Chris and Gabby, we've lived here our entire lives. We know what areas of the city get these big runs, have these massive runs to. The three of us at least know where our data would stand. I mean, we could probably give a good guess at certain areas and certain buildings and be probably within 7 to 10.
Yeah.
And just because I don't have a piece of paper from the police department going, well, this building has had 24 nuisance runs in the last 6 months, and this building has 5, doesn't mean we don't know where the numbers should be at and what's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, and I just feel like what kind of numbers are they wanting? If we look at the data and we say, all right, yeah, like you said, this one has 22, this one has 5, we're going to pick a number, and that could be looked at as arbitrary in its own. If if this one is 22, this is 5, how'd you come up with 10? Like, they could always be argued. We've not heard any guidance from the law department, our law department on that. They don't seem to have an issue with it. And I think if they felt like that was something they would be challenged in court, I think that's something that they would definitely have alerted us on, like from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not.
And things 10 years ago are not what they are today.
Yeah.
And things today are not what they're going to be in 10 years from now. 10 years from now, this city may not even need this ordinance.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be stronger in 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
This thing might be a living, breathing organism where it's changing depending on the landscape of our city. Like you're saying, we might not need it. We might need to change this, or we might see, well, this is kind of actually pretty tough. Let's maybe look at these and change that. I think, this is just a start for it, a good foundation for it, and whatever it becomes in the future is going to be constantly looked into and adjusted.
Yeah.
Is what I think is going to happen. Yeah. So.
Anything else from members?
I'm good.
All right, Mike, what you got?
You want me? Or the Reverend?
Well, I do have one more comment that he had on here. So under other penalties A, so it starts with whoever violates. He was asking, criminal charge for liability corporations or S corps. Is that something that we should maybe look at defining better? Like, so any, like from the beginning of the definitions, like any property owner or something like that, just to better define it.
Well, apparently the law department wants to take that entire thing out.
Okay. And then,
Where is that?
so
Very
we're taking
last.
other penalties A.
Very last.
Think we're tossing that in the garbage, are we?
Apparently.
We're cutting
That
it
whole
out.
Section or just A?
No, A.
A.
Not the whole
It
section.
says A and B.
Yeah, A and
Which
B.
I guess that means no criminal charge.
So B on mine, other penalties is a separate offense shall be deemed committed each day on which a violation occurs or continues. So they want that out too, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Is there any guidance or any notes
Nope.
there?
Just
Take it out,
a
huh?
line through it.
Okay. I don't have any other suggestions where I think we've done enough of that. I think we've done a lot. So there's nothing else for me. And I'd also like to note that, we've, just in the short time that we've been communicating with Mr. Tassel, we've taken a lot of his points and are utilizing them. Some of them aren't going to work for us currently, maybe in the future, but I think it's a very good faith effort to work with
I will
him.
say I tallied up the hours that I've worked on this.
Yeah.
Just myself. I tallied up 148 hours.
Wow.
That I've worked on this
Yeah.
alone, not
there's-
including everything else that I've been doing with this council. But
Yeah.
man, just these 8 pages, 148 hours.
And there's about 7 or 8 suggestions that he's made that we've taken and used, so
Mm.
I feel like that's pretty impressive.
All right.
I'm up.
Yep.
Mike Weigel.
You
Thanks
come up
for
here
listening.
so everybody home
Stay
can.
away from the camera.
We want them to look at you, be able to hear you.
Don't get shy now.
Well, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for listening to Mr. Tassel a little bit. Hopefully you'll still keep moving slowly because things are happening so fast that, and I get it. The best thing I got was today when Chris actually sent me an old version 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago.
Well, when I sent it, it was the new version, but then it
Yeah.
got changed a little. But yeah, we
Yeah.
tried to get you the most
The
updated.
only reason this changed was that I worked until 5 o'clock, got home at 5:15, worked to add in some of Mr. Tassel's suggestions by 6 o'clock to get here by 6:15.
I got it, but that's why we need to slow down and let people have more input to it and get time to read it,
Well,
actually and
here's
digest
the problem. We've slowed down. We're on our 5th meeting, our 5th draft. We've been working on this since February.
Well,
Okay.
you guys want it to be right. I know you do.
All right.
So, okay, I mean, I get your point too. Let's hurry up and put something through. Here's some of the calls I've had in the last 6 months, and I'm wondering where they fall into this. Had someone knocking on the door. This was like 2 or 3 calls. Of course, this is a 29-unit building. So I guess someone's against them, or someone wasn't within a 24-hour period the same person, which I'm not sure yet whether that matters or not. But someone was knocking on their door, aggravated them, so they called the police.
Was it a tenant?
Yes.
Okay.
So now I think I can evict for that. I mean, I certainly can try. There are things I can evict for. For instance, you said if the person has been trespassed.
That correct, but that right there would have to be looked at by the task force. Okay? Does it fall under this ordinance? Knocking on a door? Not really, unless the police put it in as a call for service as a trespass, but they're part of the building, so they can't trespass them.
Well, I'm not. Trespass is a different subject. Actually,
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, on something like that, the task force would look at and deem whether or not it falls into any of these 11 categories. That to me does not sound like it would fall into the 11 categories.
but that's the point of it. That's why I think we should be more clear. So you're telling me that my life depends on what the task force thinks, whether or not I can stay in business and stay viable.
Does it fit in the 11 categories?
Yes.
Do you understand what the 11 categories are?
Well, that's a nuisance activity, and it's listed.
Under what
is?
section would it be?
Under what section?
Well, I don't. That's definitely a nuisance activity. No.
Did you go through the list and look?
The list that you have printed here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because those haven't changed since day one.
I mean, it wouldn't be assault or aggravated
Frequently
assault.
disorder house, disturbing the peace.
Could be disturbing the peace if that's what the police put it in as, but they could
If it
put
seems
just
like,
in as
yeah,
a
if it's-
suspicious person.
Yeah, if it seems
And if
something
it's-
malicious,
If it's just a
But if
suspicious
it,
person,
you know-
it doesn't come out. It doesn't fall under this. The task force is going to look at these and say, okay, that's a suspicious person. It doesn't fit under. It doesn't fit under any of these 11 categories.
Well, I still.
keep in mind
I
the
will-
task force are not just arbitrary people that we just pick. It's the police department, fire department, health department, building department, and the safety service director. So it's the top people or one of their representatives from each
I
of
get
those.
it.
So if the police say this was a disturbance piece, or the cops say no, that wasn't a disturbance piece. It's somebody knocking on the wrong door, and the neighbor got scared and called the police.
Well, this is how they add up for a lot of calls in a 29-unit building. Stuff like that. That it seems to me that I'm going to go to this group, which is all government people that are going to be benefited from a $3,000 fine.
Mike,
And-
you'd have to get way neglectful to get that $3,000 fine. You understand?
See,
that?
that's the whole point. You guys think that, but that's not the case. For
But
29 units, 29 houses, they're going to get, 10 calls a month? Or 10 calls in 6 months?
Okay, but Mike, you're also not looking at the 11 categories that are here.
I'm looking
as a-
real good at them.
You, looking at these 11 categories, can you determine what is what?
No, but I
Are
can
you-
easily see where all the calls I get would fit into one of
Well,
those
let's-
groups,
let's-
depending
go
on
through
how
it.
they mark it.
Let's go through them. We've already deemed the first one suspicious person doesn't fit under here.
That's how you deemed it. What about the guy that was there?
The task force is going to think like me, okay, Mike? Now, you have to remember, how many times have you been to this meeting and how many times have I expressed that I've been a police officer?
I understand.
I know how a police officer thinks. We all think
Why can't
pretty
we just
close
put
to
it in
the
Well,
same.
writing
it's
there,
partially going to come. We can't we reference ORCs, we reference definitions, we got things well defined. We can't just put in each little additional sentence that.
Now,
You know,
do you
it's
want
so-
me,
for-
do you
first
want
off,
me
the
to
first
add
person
suspicious person to this.
The first person
I will.
that is going to be
That's
kind
one of
of
my other ones, which actually probably would fit on. I'm sorry, Chris.
well, the first person that's going to be on scene in determining, is this a suspicious person? Is this some knucklehead kid just knocking on doors and laughing, having a good time? Or is this somebody that was trying to cause some damage here, some harm? They're going to take that and put it in a report first. So it's really what the police officer is going to deem it as. And what does the police officer deem it as? Does that fall under one of these 11 categories? So you're asking, well, my life's going to be up to the task force? No, it's first up to the police officer who, in our society, we give a certain level of discretion to already. So their level of discretion is going to be kind of double checked by the task force level of discretion. And the task force might say, hey, this ain't that. We're not, you know, or they might be like, yeah, that does fall under there, you know. I mean, that's what that is.
I understand. I'm trying to get my point across, which
What are the other calls?
I'm trying to find the friend wouldn't leave the apartment. That was one that happened in there at least once.
Did the person that was in the apartment call on that person?
Yes.
That wouldn't count.
That wouldn't count.
So if you
That
call, and it's written in here,
They're trying to evade it.
it's detailed out. You call on a problem. At your
Well, no, you said the landlord calls on the
No. If a person has a problem with their cousin, their brother, and they want them out, and they call the police. Okay. Police come. They escort that person out of the building. They have taken their opportunity to abate them from that property themselves without even having you involved. The task force will look at that and go, they took care of the problem, they called us, that's what we want.
So that's listed though as a problem and waits for the task force to decide,
go to page 4 under
That would be considered.
number 7C.
2, 3, 4.
Under 7C, it says, any nuisance activity initially reported to the city by the owner or person in control of a property shall be excluded from the operation of this chapter. So if you're calling on a problem at your property, you are not getting
Problem
blamed
in
on
my
this.
apartment.
Yeah.
Well, that helps. And that loud music, of course, in the parking lot or neighbors. That's definitely one. That happens a lot, sadly, in a 29-unit building.
Well, that one's probably going to be a warning from the police department, and that's pretty much as far as they usually go on those, I'm sure. Which that would kind of be, I guess, up to discretionary thing too.
What did they say it was?
Loud music.
Okay, loud
Either-
music, that's under this ordinance.
Yeah. Loud music. And sometimes there was multiple calls.
Because
Neighbors having a fight.
So
which-
here's the big problem that I see with the loud music, okay? You got these guys, and I used to be one when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, probably up until 25 years old, where I'd throw these 12-inch speakers in the back of my car, bumping down the road, yeah, go to my house, bump in my driveway, right?
And I hate it.
You hate it, all the neighbors hated it, okay? My uncle, who owns a jewelry store, hated it when I would pull up to his nothing but glass entry building, okay? Now imagine that going on for 6 days straight, okay?
Well, no, imagine just a tenant that doesn't like it calling, which gives me a
Well,
call.
if they call it, well, it's during this time. I mean, if it's outside the public noise ordinance or the loud noise ordinance, then yeah, it would be covered in this.
Correct.
If it's like at 9 o'clock at night, that's not covered in the ordinance. I believe during the week it's 10 o'clock, and on the weekend it's 11:30.
I'm confused with that comment.
So-
you mean it's during the day it is a violation, but at night
If
it's
somebody-
not, or vice
Yeah.
versa?
No, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to look back at that ordinance
Well,
directly,
we
but
can look at the
I believe
ordinance.
during
10
Monday through
o'clock.
Friday it's 10 o'clock, and then on weekends it's 11 o'clock.
Correct.
So
Some of my tenants know it, and they'll play music till that time.
then
10
that's
o'clock.
within the laws.
The
as long
officer
as
knows
they're-
that. When the officer shows
Yeah.
up, he probably would still tell him, hey, somebody's calling to complain. We need you to turn it
James,
down.
And again, that would be the task force
you use
looking
your
at
copy
that.
to look at?
I did. I made notes on it.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. I got it.
Well, no, I made adjustments at 5:30 when Mr. Tassel sent me his thoughts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, some of these calls, like so
Again.
you're talking about, like the loud music, people in the property, people not leaving the property. That's not going to ding you in here. We already talked about that one, so that's not a bad call. But some of these calls also are things you can do. You don't have to. And like I sent you in a text message when we spoke this weekend was, well, my only abatement procedure is to evict people. It's not. You can send a letter. You have a lease signed with these residents, right? So if they're in violation of that lease agreement or in violation of this ordinance, you can send them a letter that says, hey, you're in violation of this section of the lease agreement or this section of this ordinance, and further activity could result in being evicted. That's an abatement plan.
That's you trying to abate this.
I reached out to my resident.
And then usually
I
that
sent
doesn't
him a
work,
letter.
but I understand
Yeah.
that gives me another 30 days at least.
I mean,
But then I have 28 other tenants that may have an issue, which
it gives
and
you
they
the
all
power.
compound.
It gives you the power of time, and it gives you the power of, hey, I'm working with the city. I'm working with my property and my residents to fix this problem.
thank you. I think that's all I have at this point until I
There was
get a fresh copy and
Yeah.
get my thoughts together a little more, but thank you.
I mean,
You
I
did
would,
help
I
on
would
some
suggest.
things,
I'm
and
not
it's
sure
been
how
moving
deep.
in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm not sure how deep you got to look into this, but I would really like carve out some time and just sit and look at it. And if you want to even meet with me privately, and we can sit down and look at it, and we can go section by section, and just kind of, I can explain kind of what these are to you. So that way, if you have any concerns, we can say, all right, well, this one's covered under here, that one's covered under here. Because a lot of the times, some of the concerns you've had have been explained in here.
That's because I was 2 or 3 drafts behind, so.
Hey, we get it. I
thank
get that
you.
too.
And
So,
it is hard when he's doing it
and-
within an hour of,
yeah, and we didn't make a lot of changes tonight, so all he's got to do is retype it, and we can get it sent out a lot sooner, and hopefully get it to the law department to get a draft up. So.
I think he made a lot of good changes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize for my tardiness today. My wife was at the emergency department at the Mercy Health. She fell on her bicycle today.
Oh.
Hopefully
They
she's
think
all
she's
right.
got, yeah, well, they think she's got just a very slight break in her elbow, so I was putting Noah to bath and putting him to bed and everything, and then I got everything I could. So,
Should have just stayed. I would have stayed there.
yeah,
man.
yeah, he's usually when I put him down, he's good, so just wanted to appreciate your all's flexibility.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just glad she's okay.
Yeah, I think she'll be.
Is there anything on there that I know I sent you guys a copy yesterday, and I apologize again for being so late. I told them I calculated my hours up today on this ordinance alone, and it was 148 hours that I put into it.
I believe it.
And then just today, I got an email from Mr. Tassel, and I worked until 5 o'clock this evening. So at 5:15, I went home and adjusted some of this to try and fit his stuff in prior to the meeting. And that's what those highlighted and italic forms are.
Yeah.
So if there's anything with those highlights or anything, let me know. And then anything that I've written in, I think only 30 days is the one I wrote in. That was a suggestion from the law department.
I guess while Mr. Bonzo's looking at that, I would like to just kind of reiterate here where we put in here under 7C, which is under procedure, that any nuisance activity initially reported to the city by the owner or person control the property shall be excluded from the operation of this chapter. So what that means is you got somebody at your house, they're causing problems, you told them to leave, they don't want to leave, you're calling the cops on them, that doesn't count for this.
Correct.
That essentially is you reaching out to the city already to abate a problem.
Well, and that's also something that if Billy Bob is having a problem with Billy Joe, calls the police and says, I need Billy Joe out of my apartment.
Yeah.
Police come and take him out of the apartment. That Billy Bob should be calling his landlord saying, hey, I called the police today for Billy Joe to get him out of my apartment. Just wanted to let you know, and they've taken care of that problem.
Yeah.
That way that landlord knows that might be on the radar, but it's not going to count against
Yeah.
him.
And also, too, somebody here at home asked, does this cover domestic violence case,
No, it
which it does
doesn't.
not.
We've,
It can't.
we've said that
yeah.
many times
Yeah.
throughout the last 5 meetings. This does not include domestic violence.
Yeah.
We cannot include it. It can't be included. It does not include.
Yeah.
There is nothing that says anything in here about domestic violence.
Yeah, I think I wanted to get those two out there because I think those are two big things where we don't want anybody scared to call the police for anything.
Absolutely not. And that's
Yeah.
why it's not included in here.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Yes, sure.
Is it time?
Okay. Pastor Sonny James at 1830 Hopkins Avenue. Let me first say to any resident that may be listening, you know, this was a very difficult issue to address, as we've already heard, in excess of 148 hours of work by one individual. So I first want to, before I say that, let me extend prayers of good health toward Mr. Bonzel's wife, and that his family see her make a quick and speedy recovery. We certainly would hate to see any family, not just council member, but any family, especially with this time of COVID, going through or experiencing anything medically. So I think as a community we join in prayers for his wife and wish her a speedy recovery. Now, you all, I want to commend you because, as it's been mentioned, 5 meetings. I want to say I see that we've gotten it down to 8 pages, and that was a point of reference made on multiple occasions, that it was so lengthy and so long. I think sometimes from a resident's perspective, though, and I think it was mentioned by a business owner, I know it's so important that we move forward with this. At the same time, because there are things that when we leave things open for someone's interpretation, whether that's a police officer or whoever that might be, sometimes when we leave out certain sentences or certain words and we leave it to interpretation, oftentimes that's where we still could possibly run into some problems. So I want to commend you all because it is more than obvious. This has not been easy, but even so the residents really understand the single family, the 4 nuisances, and then you guys defined it even more for the multi-families, and you added in a few more occurrences. The multi-family 5-unit plus, you added in more occurrences. Then I believe it was Mr. Gabbard, I could be wrong, but I believe it was Mr. Gabbard that made a point that it's not just homeowners, commercial properties should be included as well. That's in here. You guys addressed that so well. I'm really excited because Mr. Tassel came and spent his time, and I'm personally aware of the wonderful work that they do for both sides. And I'm extremely excited to see kind of a turn or shift in process within our city. To even hear tonight that, hey, there were several things that he mentioned and we added them in. I'm personally excited about the fees. I know when I first met with you all, I did have a big issue with the fees to the property owners, and you all responsibly addressed that and made those modifications, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful addition. Can people find fault in this still? I mean, Listen, if you look for something, you can find it. You know what I mean? So I just want to commend you all on the wonderful work that you guys have put into this, all of you. And I'm, as a resident, from my perspective, and most of you know, hearing every perspective is very important to me. And so there are things in here. I just want to, before I sit down, make sure, I don't know that I know we have a timeline, and I know we've put a lot of time into this, and I know you guys are eager to wrap this up. I don't blame you at all. But at the same time, I do think there's little pockets in here that could use a little more defining. I know Chris had mentioned Mr. Tassel hadn't gotten back with you folks yet on some potentially pertinent issues, so I think that might stretch it out a little bit more. I'm not sure. I'm just saying, because you said you're going to at least let him.
Those potential issues that we're waiting on him for go into a letter, not into this.
Yeah, that's just stuff for the letter that we're going to send out sooner with, hey, so we.
But are those things you're going to consider, or I may have misunderstood?
Those will not go into here, into this ordinance. Those will only go into the letter of warning when we send them out halfway through and at the time of the nuisance.
Yeah, so Mr. Tassel last meeting asked that we send the letters out sooner rather than wait until they reach the threshold.
Yeah.
Or come right to the threshold. So what it is, so we're going to send the letters out almost halfway through that number before they get it. So they have more time to work on it. And what that's going to include is verbiage to a program that he suggested to allow landlords and even, I'm sure, property owners, like single-family property owners can probably learn something from it.
Gotcha.
To just a different opportunity for them to learn for future stuff of, managing properties and that. So that's all we're waiting on. That's something that goes in the letter. He's going to send us that, and he's going to send us a sample letter.
Thank you for clarity. I misheard.
And that's not something. That's not something we need. We don't need to put a sample letter into the ordinance.
Into that,
so.
yeah. I thought I heard that we were waiting on something, and once we got more clarity and understanding, then we would consider.
No, it's
adding it.
it's the program he's suggested, but I don't have any idea about the program,
Yeah.
and neither do any of it. He might have more clarity on it, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. So
Yeah. Well, those
that's for the letter, and that's outside of this ordinance.
that's fine. Listen, I just again want to commend you all. I think the residents should be very pleased. It's about growth. And as a community, from my perspective, when I can see people that normally don't think like I do, come together and really put forth a valiant effort, whether we hit the mark or not, we all residents owe it to this body to at least acknowledge that. And so with that, I'm closing with this. When we talk about perspective, it's so important that we see things from everybody's perspective. And as we look around the country and even look around in Cincinnati proper, and we see some of the things that are going on, a lot of it has to do with how certain individuals feel about the perceptions of people who might think the same way about things. And so I want us to challenge ourselves and keep challenging ourselves because, for instance, the opioid issue, as we call it, a pandemic, is genuine and real. But for one culture, we write in an ordinance to protect because it facilitated or it affects one particular culture dominantly. Whereas other things that might be in here, like the noise ordinance, that I personally don't think would be the responsibility or should be the issue from the homeowners or from the business owners. That should be something that's addressed by our police. But when we draft things and make it an ordinance that affect a large body that we call a pandemic or what have you, but then we write in things that traditionally affect certain cultures, and then we make laws to address those folks, it keeps that unbalance there. So I trust prayerfully that each of you will continue to look at the wording in some of the things that we draft And as we do it, just kind of, if we could, look at every perspective, because I think if we take time, I do agree that a noise from a radio, listen, you can't control what people are going to do. So if it becomes something that's a city nuisance, then I don't think that should be something the homeowners are held to a standard on.
What?
Because then that could be interpreted, and who comes out and interprets it, which we've often seen for years and years and years, the interpretation of how I'm supposed to treat that comes into question a lot, and it has,
So-
verifiably, undeniably.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If he's got a 29 unit building,
Yes, sir.
let's just say he's got a 29 unit building, okay, and he's got male white, male black, female white, female black, female Asian, whoever it may be,
Whoever.
come up, drive up, and for 4 days straight, we're sitting in the back of that lot, thumping music out of their car, thumping, 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 hanging out with friends, whatever it may be, okay?
Yep.
The tenants in 2 or 3 apartments get irritated and tired of that, call the police. Okay? Now they called him, told him, still nothing done really, but it's a tenant of the building that's thumping, right? It's another tenant, lives in another apartment in that building, but he's outside thumping, she's outside thumping. At what point do we start asking the landlord to take care of that problem? Because we can't keep having the police go back 4,
Okay.
5, 6 times.
If they would
You
just
bring-
arrest him or give him a ticket, it would stop the first.
Well, we can't arrest people
It
for
won't.
you
I can
can't-
tell you it won't.
Well, but here's the issue. But here's the issue for the property owner, and I'll give you a specific example. The building right by the softball field. There have been multiple times when people, for whatever reason, would pull up. They're not affiliated with that building, yet the music is obscene, it's vulgar, it doesn't represent what I think anybody in that building, maybe, I don't know, may be proud of. Children are walking by. How is that any fault or responsibility of a property owner? Let me finish. Someone who's just come up, because on 2 occasions I've gotten out of my car because of the activity that was going on. It caused children then, because children are impressionable, they then began engaging in certain activity that then prompted a potential fight. Okay? None of that, they're not tenants there, they're not, none of that had, the property owner has nothing to do with that,
Okay, so
nor those tenants that were on the inside.
were there any tenants that came to the car?
No, there were children. I can only speak when I was there. There were
Right.
children.
So
They were on the corner. They were
Right.
loitering,
they were
loitering
just
on the
there
corner.
hanging out, right?
Yeah. So then they somehow, and I just pulled over so I can watch. You know, most folks know if there's something going on, I'm gonna come and see what's going on. And I just made a mental note that this is one of those incidences.
Okay, so at that point, and I think I don't know if you came in before or after we had the conversation about the task force. The task force will look at the report from that incident if the police are called, and determine whether or not it was part of that address or that building. Okay, now the task force, between the 5 people, and it may not even be the chief of police. It may be a lieutenant. It may be a sergeant. It may be an officer. It's a person deemed by the police chief to be in charge. Okay.
Yes.
Not be in charge. To represent
Yeah.
the police. Okay. So what they'll do is they'll look at that and they'll look at the report. They'll review it under One of the changes I made is the calls for service. And it says the chronic nuisance task force will review and determine if the call for service is within this ordinance.
And
So-
the caveat onto that real quick, Matt.
Yeah.
Under appeals, number 3, it states here, he or she had no knowledge of the nuisance activity and could not, with reasonable care and diligence, have known of the nuisance activity. So something like that would fall under that, and that would be reviewed by the task force as well. How could they know this is going on? The car's on the public right of way. Who knows where they're at? Like, who knows why
None
they're
of the tenants
there?
came to the car. It's not a tenant of the building. It's just some Joe Schmo rolling down the street. That's where the task force comes in and says, okay, we've read through the report. We're going to throw this one out. It doesn't apply to this ordinance. So that doesn't count against the landlord.
Gotcha. And again, thank you for providing clarity. There are just still, for the sake of time, and I thank Chris. He again sent me the email. I
asked him too because I was in the car yesterday and I couldn't get the email out off my phone driving. So I called him. I'm like, hey, Chris, can you send this over to Sonny?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get it to him.
No, and I appreciate that. Again, and I know the timeliness. Sometimes we get things at the last minute, so I'm borrowing a draft right here to just go over some of the points real quick. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. All I'm asking is make sure you've got the numbers down where I believe you all wanted to see the page count. But I think if you just continue and just keep it in mind, that's all I'm asking. You guys have done a phenomenal job. You're working together. You're addressing a hard issue that this isn't easy, guys. Somebody's going to always be upset with you, especially if you chair this one. You're going to have some rocky roads, I get it. But just take your time and continue to look at the future of us as a people and how things affect us as a people. I believe you are attempting to do that, and I'm very grateful to stand as a resident and as someone that really tries to be well invested in the community like so many of our other residents. I just want to encourage you to keep your mind focused on every perspective, because when it comes to interpretation and execution of things, yes, in Norwood, that's where oftentimes things that might not totally be defined, that's where some folks could still be caught in the gap, because somebody could listen to loud music and that music might not be music that I listen to, but that may not be violent. But some people just walk out a different type of vernacular when they communicate and when they do things. So if you don't have things pinpointed, you really leave it open for interpretation. Like, hey, you were threatening the neighbors, and I'm dancing. I can't help that they all think how they think, and I think how I think. So I don't want to make a big stink out of it, guys. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, each and every one of you. You guys are listening to each other, talking to each other. Guys, all I can say is, there's a new day coming in Norwood, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to witness it, and that's all I can say. Just keep.
And I'm kind of with you as far as things being vague. I've looked at some of the Norwood ordinances that have been codified, and I look at them and I'm just disgusted because they're half this page.
Right.
And that was one thing I said when I came in, was if I ever came up with something like this and I wanted to enact an ordinance or something, it needed to be spelled out as much as I possibly could without going so deep that I tie everybody's hands together.
Right. And that's a fine line.
And,
I get that.
that's why the original one was 15 pages.
Right.
And then I dropped it to 11. Now I've got it to 8. But I think I've finally, between all the discussions that we've had, got
Might need 9 pages though.
a pretty good compromise.
Yeah. It's guys, listen, I'm going to sit down. All I can say to the residents of Norwood, we got to take our hats off to these guys, because this was a tough one. and this one wasn't easy, and like you said, 15 to 8. That means there's a lot cut. And how do you cut? What do you cut? What do you compromise on? I mean, we got to learn as a people to work together. Nobody's going to be happy with everything. I'm not happy with everything, but I can see the growth. I think Mike can see they put a lot of work into this. Whether you did 148 hours or whatever you did, there's a lot of work went into this. And the fine part, I appreciate that, because just looking at, from the owner's perspective, there's just so many loopholes still out there that could bite them. But I think you guys have done a phenomenal job addressing this. I don't want to always seem like I'm just badgering you for missing something. We all miss something. We all fall short, okay? But you guys keep up the good work. And to the residents, we ought to commend them. And I know there's going to be a group of you out there that's going to be constantly looking for the bad in everything. We're coming to the end of 2020. Let's start looking for some of the good that they do, or at least try to do. So with that, God bless you guys. Take some time. Again, that's all I'm going to say. Look for those little cracks that are still in there, and I appreciate you acknowledging other ordinances that, and it leaves the door open for certain people that I personally care dearly for, oftentimes being caught in the cracks. So God bless you guys. Keep working at it, and thank you for taking on such a difficult task.
Have you had a chance to go over the...
Yeah. No, I appreciate the. From where we are now to where we were, I think Mr. James is exactly correct. I feel like we're in a much better place. We're in a good place. This is a complicated thing. There's a lot to this, and we want to make sure that it's being broad enough, but it's not also then certain types of properties are getting overly penalized because of that. And I think this ordinance right now strikes a good balance.
So the one that's marked up that you have there is the law department's
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about
modification.
Have you all? So these have not gone into this yet.
No, I just got these today.
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah, it was
Mr.
largely
Gary
like-
did not want to stay for the meeting.
Yeah, it was
so-
largely like grammar and
Sure.
other little.
Yeah. No, I've looked through it. So it sounds like you'll accept most of these changes then that they've recommended.
A lot of them, yeah. We've already taken out on the very back side of page 8. This draft that I have here, I took out what he marked out there on the back side,
Cool.
which was the criminal version of it.
Nope, that's perfect. So
We discussed it, and I guess we decided to go ahead and take that out. So
yeah, I'm going to point this out to you before I forget. So under definitions, A1, activities and nuisance are flipped there, but it's just a very small change. But for the most part,
and
though,
my version.
Yeah, written it's activities nuisance, not nuisance activities.
Yeah, real easy change.
Oh.
The rest of them are done right. So it's nothing.
There's that 148 hours.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. We'll still find. I'll look at this tonight again, and we'll find this. I've read over this multiple times, and I didn't catch it either. So
Yeah, most of the.
yeah. I was
sorry,
going to say the last thing too. I'll just say, what about the numbering? So are we at this point ready to basically send this to council, or is there something else?
All this numbering here, is essentially, I wanted to make sure that they could just plug and play.
Yeah.
So I didn't number anything. When I took this from Middletown's,
Do you know what number of the code it's going to be, like chapter?
I do not know.
Okay, so whatever chapter it's going to be, so definition, let's just say it's going to be 538, right? I don't know. But chapter 538, so when you do purpose will be 538.01, definition will be
Correct.
538.02, and then
Yes.
that way, okay, cool. Just want to make sure. And then, yeah, other than that,
And when I send it to them to have them draft it up, I'll make sure I send it to everybody so that you can see what the numbers are and what ordinance number it's going to be.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, yeah, so, I don't have any more issues. I read over it last night.
Yeah, and sorry I cut you off a little bit, but I was going to say I personally am happy with where this is. I think, we've had a lot of meetings. I want to thank Mr. Tracy for really taking this on. This turned into something that we didn't even think it was going to be.
No.
You know, we knew it was going to be a big undertaking, but not a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex size undertaking that it's turned into.
Didn't think it was going to be 5 meetings and 5
Yeah,
drafts.
me either. But, you know, good work on this. I want to thank all you guys for being here and giving your input. Mr. James, Mr. Weigert over here who've been here, Mr. Tassel who's given some really good points that we've taken the majority of. We've heard from, you know, Pastor James, we've taken advice. Mr. Weigert, we've taken advice.
Ms. Bell was
And-
here at one of the meetings. From Ms. Felicia Bell was here.
Yeah, and multiple other people. I mean, I don't think there's anything more we can really do to, you know, that wouldn't be nitpicking at this point. I think, you know, this for some can seem drastic, but we have a very severe problem out here going on. Daily I get messages, and I just got a call today about some nuisance properties of Xavier Rentals over in Ward 2 where I passed Mr. DiNardo's information on and, you know, got that resident in touch with him. So, I mean, there's a severe need in different, you know, aspects of our city, you know, where something like this is needed. And this might seem drastic to some, but I do want to point out that there is very, very, very clear, detailed protections for landlords in here. And this is by no means a landlord thing. This is a property thing. We are a nation of laws, and we have to follow them. We have to be neighborly. We have to be respectful. We have to be cordial and understanding that, you know, some people want to be in peace, but some people don't want to deal with fights going on in the yards and loud music and crazy stuff going on at all hours of the night. It's unfortunate that we need this. I mean, working on this has been a kind of a task, but it's a necessary task. It's, to me, really unfortunate that we do need something like this, but I'm glad we're working on it. And in my opinion, I think we're ready to take this to council, send it through the law department, get it drafted in ordinance, take it to council, and vote on it. That's where I'm at with it. There's really not much more we can add. A lot of the questions and concerns that people have had, I've been able to go through and find and say it right here is where it states that or covers that. So I'm not too worried about people getting caught up into this that don't deserve to be. When you get to our fine structure, you have grossly neglected not only the rules and laws that we have in Norwood, but the communication from the city to try to get you back on track to those laws. You've grossly neglected those counts. So you deserve to be fined. And if for some reason, somehow, something slips through the cracks and somebody's declared nuisance property and they start getting fined and penalized financially, that appeals process is very clear. Show us your communication. Show us how you've been working with us. Show us, you know, that you've abated this issue or that issue, and it'll be taken off or it'll be fixed. So I'm not too worried about that either, because I think that's a clear process. If you decide to work with us and manage your properties, manage your household, even if you're a landowner and you're living there, then you're not going to have any problems with this. And for some of the landlords that are saying, well, you know, we can't be in charge of other people, or we can't be held accountable for other people, I think when you sign that lease and you provide that lease and you allow somebody to live at one of your properties, you are entering in a contract that says I will be held accountable for your actions, and if you violate that trust and that contract we have, then I'll have to put you out. I think that's what that means. So hopefully we have landlords that are doing background checks, that are looking into people's past, trying to get the best tenants to where eventually we don't need this. That's my hope, and I think that's where we're at. I think we're ready to go, and if you guys agree, I would love to send this to the law department and send it to council.
One thing I just noticed that Mr. Gary had marked in his paper is under appeals. Under appeals, he took out the word applicant at the very last sentence and put board members. And I think leaving it as applicant, because we don't want any applicants who live outside the city of Norwood being on the Board of Appeals, right?
No, but I mean, I think he's probably correct, because the issue is that, I mean, we may not have an application process. We could have an application process. That probably would be prudent. But
Well, that's what we've got in here is an application process.
It says that they apply to be on the board.
Let's see. It says. This board shall consist of 3 members of the public appointed by the Norwood City Council to a term of terms. Let's see, board members may petition Norwood City Council. Maybe I should put that as apply.
I mean, I would say, honestly, I think if you change applicants to board members, because here's the thing, if you make it say board members have to be residents of the city of Norwood, then that means nobody can apply that. I mean, if they do apply, then they're not going to get it.
So to become a board member and be considered board member, you would have to be.
And then that would also prevent a council then, by mistake or by on purpose, from appointing somebody that doesn't live in Norwood that just happened to not apply.
See, my hope is that, and I don't know if I need to spell this out in here or not. I was going to ask you guys last meeting, and I'm not sure why I didn't ask, but you know, do we want to put in here that it comes? And I know I've discussed it with at least one other person. Do I put it as applied to the Housing, Health, and Public Safety Committee?
I wouldn't because the committees are.
What happens if it changes?
Yeah, the committee changes. I would say that you put in here that council appoints it. I think what we do is the rules of council need to then say, like, if we really want to be specific on stuff like that, we put that in the rules of council. So we can either amend the rules of council or just wait until the next council or whatever. But I think with the ordinance, honestly, I think what you have is really solid personally. The only thing I would even recommend is that the terms be 3 years, not 4, but that way you just replace somebody every year.
Yeah, I was trying to fix that, and I was trying to read through my notes, and I could not figure out for the life of me.
I thought what we talked about last time.
3 years originally.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, and then, every year.
And that way, just every year we'd have another one. I mean, that's my recommendation, and also too.
Now, is that something we could put in the bylaws for that committee?
No, you just change it right here. You literally just change it here. Instead of 4 years, instead of 2, 3, and 4, it's 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, so one member is appointed for 2 years, so change that to what?
Just to 1 year.
To 1 year.
Yeah, so what I thought we discussed and what I was feeling is initially it'd be one person. So say us 3. You get the 1 year term to start, you get the 2 year term, I get the 3 year term to start. And then after that you can get another 3 year term, but then I would kick it off, but just to stagger it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's not like every time there's a 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year. I want that 3 year term, not the 2.
And if we had the text in there,
just to start.
Yeah.
So
they're actually 3 year terms, but to start it off, you got to stagger.
Just to change it up. Okay, so 1 year or 2 years becomes 1. 2 years becomes, or 3 years becomes 2.
Yeah.
And 4 years becomes 3. Correct?
3 year term.
Yep, that sounds good.
Cool.
Clarity.
Yeah.
So this committee is separate from the task force?
This is
I'm just
the appeals.
trying to get clarity.
This is the appeals.
This is appeals. Yes, it's separate. So the task force members will not be a part of the appeals committee.
Yeah, the appeals board will be private residents.
Appeals.
And that's what I want to hear.
The appeals
Hard
board will
here,
be,
so I'm-
the appeals board will be private citizens, residents,
Yeah.
just like the board of zoning.
Yes.
They'll sit up here, there'll be 3 members. That way, if there's a tie, yes or no, there's at least one there
Right.
for majority.
Does it state when you all are starting the process for those applicants?
It does state in here, July 30th, resumes will be accepted from the public, July 30th to August 15th.
Okay.
For the appointment, the calendar date. And the reason that I did that,
So per usual, but whenever we do get this passed and they do start, then that term will kick off in July. But we're not going to wait until next July to get it.
correct.
So that first 1 year term will
Start
be
in July.
whenever it starts until next July.
Correct.
I would, and so, okay, so if you're saying till next July, so you're saying that you want resumes July 30th, August 15th, but that would kind of be after the start of the
Yeah. So say we did this tomorrow. When we kicked it off tomorrow, it was in tomorrow, and we appointed board members now. Anytime up from here till this
when would
next
their term
July.
end? When would their term end?
The term ends July 15th.
Yeah.
On July 15th.
Or no, I'm sorry. The term ends on August 30th.
Okay, that makes more sense. So, and not that, I mean, you need to spell it out here, but you might just want to spell it out. Well, I don't know. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Hang on.
If that's the intention, that's totally fine to me.
Yeah, so the term would end August 30th. This way I was trying to give a 2-week period to get resumes in. and then a 2-week period to decide on who's coming in.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's going to take 2 weeks for council to decide who's coming in.
That's fine.
And the reason I did it in the middle of the year is I didn't want to do it at the end of the year and have a council that might be turning over choose those board members.
We also, it allows
It kind of-
the new council, and you're not having to do this like right away.
Right.
Everybody gets
Yeah.
their feet wet, and then hey,
Right.
this is
And
something else.
it's
we
also
get
not
later.
last minute for
Yeah.
council to do this on December 25th.
Yeah, right. Because we
wants
came
to come
in, we
here
had a
for
list of
Christmas?
people that we had to vote on. I'm like,
One
this is a whole
suggestion I
meeting.
would have is after you make all the things, maybe before it goes to law, that you send it to the safety service director and ask him to send it to the task force members for them to do a read through on it and make sure that they've got no issues or they understand, and then and send comments to either you or all of us or whatever, and before it goes to law.
Yeah, and that,
for
I mean, and
their
that covers police, fire, health department.
Well, we've spoke with the police chief about it. I've attempted to speak with the health department, but Dale has not been very communicative.
Well, now
towards
you have
me.
Brian, though. He's now
Yeah,
in
the
charge.
commission.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say at this point, send
Oh, I had
anything
no
to them.
clue about that one.
Yeah, well, they did. The mayor did not make a very good announcement, or the board of health, whoever I guess board of health appointed him.
Yeah,
There was no
but-
real good announcement about it. It just changed on our COVID-19
Yeah,
update.
he's now the health
It went
commissioner.
from
I didn't
Frank
even
Farino,
notice that.
interim commissioner, to Brian Williamson. It just randomly changed one day. I was like, oh, congratulations, Brian.
I didn't even
email.
notice that.
I told you I didn't even notice.
But yeah, I've reached out to everybody except the health department,
Yeah.
and that's mainly because I was getting. Why am I even looking at this? Why do I need to look at it? That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
And now, Dr. Perino was more like, "Hey, speak with Dale. This isn't my."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it-
we'll make sure we get that covered. Though.
So yeah, and I mean the thing is too, like the reason why I really want to, I'm looking forward to seeing this go forward because one, we've got other things that we need to work on that may not be covered by this, that like we wouldn't want to be covered by this, right? I mean there's there's definitely issues I can think about in my head that we need to get going on, but the other thing is too, like we need to let it be implemented after all of this time and effort that we put forward. And again, I don't mind we definitely should get feedback from the task force, but it's good to get this thing implemented because I think there's going to be changes after we implement that's like there's going to be things that are going to get figured out that like hey that's maybe not be the best process and there might be just a list of three
Right,
or
we just tweak
four
it.
things that we might come back late next year and
Yeah.
tweak them. And just,
Yeah, that's something I touched on for you guys. This thing's probably what I imagine it's going to be a living, breathing organism where we're looking at it year to year, maybe even in 5 years, maybe we don't need it, or 10 years, maybe we don't need it, or maybe let's change this and that. So that's definitely going to be something that
yeah,
is going to happen.
But we won't know some of that stuff till we implement.
And a lot of that will come from the task force saying, hey, this part's not working, or we need to add this, or, those kind of things. And then it can come back to us to tweak.
Well, I was going to say I'm with Chris. I kind of wanted to send it to the law department and get something
Sure.
drafted.
Send it to both and just let them
Yeah,
know, hey, this
well-
is what's being sent to be drafted.
So what I just
I'd
wrote down
love
here.
to have it on the next council meeting if possible.
So what I just wrote down here was kind of my thoughts, just so I can go back later because I got a lot going on. Is maybe step one, send to the members of the task force, say, hey, can you get back to me within a couple days of any suggestions you might have, and two, then forward that to the law department. I'm not sure what suggestions they'll have other than maybe taking one thing out or two things out or something, but. And if there is a
Well-
series of a lot of suggestions, maybe we meet again and talk about
But
it.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these suggestions that are written here, that basically are a lot of
Yeah, and that's the law
capitalizations-
department's suggestions
capitalization
there,
stuff, which is the law department's
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so
rendition.
yeah, I think it's there. I think they did an initial. I don't think they were the most detailed, probably. Like, I mean, they're not adding in the numbers and everything, so they'll still have more work to do. But you make that change. The other thing is too, so if you do make any other like changes that are like very inconsequential, consequential, like flipping two words that like were mistakenly done, whatever. I mean, I would say any changes you make at this point, track changes, and if there's, I don't think we need to meet again for something small like that. Like, I think that if these kind of things, just get them done. If there's like a decision that needs to be made, I guess we can, we can meet. But
And that's kind of why I wanted this meeting, was to hash out all the last things that we needed to hash out, the bigger things, and especially since Mr. Tassel
yeah.
put in some recommendations. I wanted to make sure I got at least a couple of them in there that made sense for us and things that
Work for them.
work for them. And I'm hoping that I can get this on the next council meeting if possible. I got the support of the rest of the committee here.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm ready.
Hopefully I'll send it out to the safety service director tonight, along with the law department tonight, with their changes, and then the flipping of the words. Holy cow, I can't believe I did that.
It's very minor.
And then I'll ask them to draft one up. As soon as I get it back from you guys, or back from them, I'll shoot it out to all the members, just so you guys have a clean copy of a Norwood draft, or of a city draft. And then I'll recommend it out to council next meeting to go up for a vote. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Guess we'll adjourn.
Great.
Good meeting.